In this movie, we're going to have a look at the reshape tools, which I absolutely love. If you hover over the width tool and then click and drag on it, you'll see there are a whole bunch of reshape tools underneath. What I want you to do is move to the edge, and that will allow you to tear that off as a strip. And we can place that up at the top here and use these tools to reshape our elements. We're going to start with the bone. I've created a shape using the letter I and creating outlines from it and scaling it up. And what we're now going to do is use these reshape tools to reshape it to look more like a bone. So I'm going to start with the bloat tool. And the bloat tool, if I click on this area here, just bloats areas, and we can quickly create what looks like a bone shape just by bloating the edges of the eye. And I'm going to do that here as well. Just bloat the edges of the eye. Now, if you over bloat, you can always use the pucker tool just to pull bits in or push bits out. If I click outside here, it's actually going to have the effect of pulling that path out. So let's undo that a little bit and just go back to here. Now, if you find that it's a little bit too strong, this tool, you can double click on it and that will open up its options where you can reduce something like the intensity. So if it was bloating a little too much, we could bring that down to maybe a value of 10. Or even use pressure sensitivity to control how much it bloats by. And now you'll see my bloat is a lot more subtle. Never thought I'd hear the day where I said, now my bloat is a lot more subtle. But there you go, the joys of working with software. So now I've created the ends of the bone. I also want to just fatten up this area a little bit and make it a little less uniform. So by fattening up some of the areas on the bone itself, I can make it look a little less straight, if you like, a little bit more bent in areas. And we're also going to bloat up this area here as well. So make one side of the bone bigger than the other. Okay, and we'll do that here as well. Okay, we're also going to select it and rotate it. And I'm just going to use the regular transform box to do that, just to rotate my bone around. So I'm going to create it at an angle like that. In fact, let's rotate it that way so it's not overlapping with the skull. Okay, so once I've done that, I could choose something like the warp tool just to push and pull bits in. Okay, and that allows me to literally push and pull areas of the bone. And again, if I double click the tool, I can maybe ask that to be a little stronger, so a value of 40 will allow me just to push areas in, make my bone fatter at this end, and make it less round, a little bit less of a uniform shape, just by pushing and pulling the pixels around. Okay, so the warp tool is probably the one that I use the most out of these, as it allows me to very quickly and easily make custom shapes, just by messing around with my Wacom pen. Okay, you can use a mouse as well, but obviously you can't take advantage of the pressure sensitivity with the mouse. So once I'm happy with that, I can create a duplicate and create my crossbones. But let's have a look at the skull. What can we do with the skull? Well, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and just have a look at the skull. And what I want to do is make the top of the skull a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is make my brush bigger. Now, I can't use the left and right bracket keys to adjust the size of the brush. So it's a bit annoying, I know, but this one, you hold down the Alt key and drag. Now, the nice thing about that is I can drag it. And this is what makes it acceptable, I think, to be a different shortcut key. Because instead of just making it bigger or smaller, I can actually adjust the roundness of it as well. So I can make it a wide, fat brush if I want to. So I hold down Alt and just get the brush the size and shape that I want. And once I have that, I'm then going to go into the layer that has the skull on it. And if we toggle visibility on and off, you'll see it's this layer. And I can open it up and just make sure that I'm only selecting the head. Now I've locked various items in here to stop myself accidentally scaling them. So I'm going to just select the head layer. And now when I click on that using the bloat tool, which I forgot to select, we can actually make that skull a little bit bigger. So I just click on that and it starts to grow the skull out in various directions until I'm happy with it. Okay, so really handy to be able to use that, and then I can always make it bigger again if I need to extend it further. Okay, so we've got a nice tall skull now. It's getting bigger and bigger. We could keep going. Make it absolutely huge if we want to. Okay, so it's starting to look more like a Star Trek skull. Obviously, if I select the eyes, I could use this on them. So I could either bloat the eyes, whoops, making sure that I have them selected. I can either bloat the eyes, that's going to be a bit too much, or I can choose the reshape tool with a smaller brush, so holding down Alt again and clicking to make it much smaller. I can just push that shape around and get a less uniform shape for the eye. And then we'll do this eye, unlock that, and again just reshape it to where I want it. So I just love these reshape tools. We'll also do the nose, select the nose, and just pull and push that around until we're happy with it. So really fantastic. There are other tools as well. There's the twist tool or twirl tool, scallop tool, which will create scalloped edges, crystallize, which creates spiky edges. The crystallize tool I quite often use for creating hair. So I'll make the brush a lot bigger and then just click on the edges of a path to create kind of spiky hair, something like that. We'll create spiky hair just pushing on the edge of the path. So if you want a skull with spiky hair, you can use the crystallize tool. There's also the wrinkle tool. I'll just use that very quickly for you, which creates kind of wrinkled edges. So if you want to do like the edge of a t-shirt or some material or something, you can use that to create these kind of wrinkly edges. So that's a little bit of fun using the reshape tools to create my skull and crossbones.